A very warm welcome, students. Today we are going to discuss the shift to paper of phase 3. How was the paper? We could say it was somewhere between easy and moderate. There were some moderately difficult questions which you could term lengthy, but rest of the questions were all easy and some very good questions were there. Provided you have learned the concepts well, you will be able to do them wonderfully. So let us analyze this paper and see what best way we can solve these questions. First question, let A, B, C be three events such that the probability that exactly one of A and B occurs. What do you mean by exactly one of A and B occurs? It is P of A plus P of B, either A occurring or B occurring. In this, A and B occurring is both in A as well as in B. That we have to subtract 2P of A intersection B. This is what we mean by probability that exactly one of A and B occurs. And what is this given to be? 1 minus K. Then probability that exactly one of B and C occurs, which is P of B plus P of C minus 2P intersection P of B intersection C. This is given to be how much? 1 minus 2K. Probability that exactly one of C and A occurs, P of C plus P of A minus 2P of C intersection A is given to be 1 minus K again. Probability that all of them simultaneously occur. What is the probability that all of them simultaneously occur? P of A intersection B intersection C is given to be K square. Then what is he asking? Probability that at least one of A, B, C occur. What is the meaning of probability of at least one of A, B, C occurs? It is nothing but A union, B union, C. A union, B union, C. P of A union, B union, C, what is it? That is what we need to find. It is nothing but P of A plus P of B plus P of C, sigma P of A minus P of A intersection B minus P of B intersection C, so on, sigma P of A intersection B, plus to this you have to add P of A intersection B intersection C. This is for you P of A union B union C. Now how do we get this? Just simply add these three equations. What you can see? 2P of A, 2P of B, 2P of C minus 2 times of 2. If I take common, it is this particular expression. So this entire expression is simply sum of these three. How much is it? 3 minus 4K. And what is P of A intersection B intersection C given to be? K square. So this is for you P of A union B union C, K square minus 4K plus 3. K square minus 4K plus 3. So he is asking whether this is greater than some number or less than some number. You have a simple quadratic. You have a simple quadratic expression whose maxima minimum values you know. And here K is a quantity between 0 to 1. So our focus should be only between 0 to 1. So very easy to answer this question. So only thing in this question is you just have to mathematically write the meaning of exactly one of C and A and all of ABC or exactly one of ABC. If this mathematical notation you are clear, then this question will be a simple question to you. Next question. If the mean and variance of 6 observations 7, 10, 11, 15, A, B are 10 and 20 by 3. So this question is coming regularly in your JEE main. Only problem with this question is concept is simple, but slightly calculations will be there. You need to have that patience. So mean of these numbers, what is it? 7 plus 10 plus 11 plus 15 plus A plus B divided by 6 is given to be 10. Is given to be 10. Then variance, how do you calculate variance? Simple formula for variance is mean of squares minus square of mean of squares minus square of mean of squares means what? Square all these numbers, 7 square plus 10 square plus 11 square plus 15 square plus a square plus b square divided by 6, that is mean of the squares minus square of the mean is how much? 10. So 10 square, this is variance for you. How much is it? 20 by 3. So you have two equations. You have two equations here and two variables a and b. You can happily solve for a and b, or rather from here you will get the value of a square plus b square. From here you will get the value of a plus b. From a plus b and a square plus b square, what we need to find is a minus b. Mod is there, so probably he intends at finding a minus b whole square first. So a minus b whole square, a plus b and a square plus b square, what is the relation? A minus b whole square plus a plus b whole square is nothing but 2 times of a square plus b square. Okay, so here you need not solve for a and b, directly you will be getting. I'll also tell you a small shortcut here. See, mean of these numbers is 10. Mean of these numbers is 10. So, this part I am not altering anything. This equation I can simplify it a bit. How? Remove all the numbers which are 10 or which are adding up to averaging to 10. What are the numbers? This 10 you can remove. Mean will still remain 10. So, from among the numbers you can remove 10. Mean will remain 10. 7 is 3 short. So, I will borrow 3 from here and give it to 7. So, that is again 10. Now, you can remove it. 11, 1 is excess. I will give it to this. So, effectively 13AB, their mean is 10. 13AB, their mean is 10. Okay. So, you can make it very simple. A plus B, this is 30. 13, take it to the other side and you directly get the value of a plus b instead of doing all the summation. Okay, so not very calculation intensive, a simple question and a regularly asked question. In a triangle ABC, what is given here? A triangle ABC, modulus of BC is nothing but side A, 3, modulus of CA is side B, 5, and BA is given to be 7. So, all sides of the triangle are given. Then projection of BA on BC. What will be projection? Shadow. Drop a perpendicular from A on BC, B on BC, that is its point itself. So, this length will be your projection. This length will be your projection. This is your altitude. So, sides of the triangle are given. He is asking you to find this particular length. This particular length. So, if this angle is B, what will this length be? 7 sine B. This length will be 7 sine B. How to find sine B? To find angles of a triangle when sides are given, best rule is cosine rule. So, use cosine rule. Cos B is equal to 7 square plus 3 square minus 5 square divided by 2 into 7 into 3. You have cos B, you can find sine B, and you have the answer. So, not at all a complicated question. It's again a very easy question. Next one, F maps are except for alpha by 6. Why is alpha by 6 removed here? denominator is becoming 0. So that is very obvious. Then find the value of alpha for which f of x is x. f of x is x. We need to find the value of alpha for which f of x is x. So here, what are the conclusions which you can draw when you see f of x is x? One conclusion is f inverse is nothing but f. So f of x is inverse of itself. F of x is inverse of itself. So in a regular class, if you have to beautifully do this question, this graph of the function would have been a mirror image of itself with respect to the, what kind of a graph will this be? A rectangular hyperbola. A linear by a linear will be a rectangular hyperbola. This rectangular hyperbola will be symmetric with the line y is equal to x. So y is equal to x has to be one of the asymptotes for this curve. So that is the conclusion which we would have drawn. But in examination, you will not have time for all that novelty. We have to find out some smart methods. So what could be a smart method? What is given here? f of x is equal to x. Identify some value of x for which f of x is 0. Which value of x makes f of x 0? Obviously minus 3 by 5. So I'll choose x is equal to minus 3 by 5. Put x is equal to minus 3 by 5. F of minus 3 by 5 is how much? 0. F of 0 is what? Put x equal to 0 minus 3 by alpha. Minus 3 gets cancelled. Alpha is equal to 5. Alpha is equal to 5. So, one liner, time saver, provided you understand how we have arrived at x equal to minus 3 by 5 substitutions. Very simple way of doing this. So, during your preparation, if you are accustomed to this way of smart way of doing things, things will be a lot more easy. So, you need to both have the conceptual understanding as well as the smart approach towards the examination. Consider the following statements. If 3 plus 3 is 7, can it be 7? No. But what we are talking about is logical statements, and all the three of them are if-then statements. What is if-then statements? It is something of the form P implies Q. So, because all the three of them are dealing with if-then, in order not to make a mistake, just have the truth table of P implies Q in your mind. If first statement P is true, then Q has to be true. If P is true but Q is not true, this is not possible. F false. Rest of them, if P is false, nothing is mentioned here. So whether it is true or whether it is false, both of them are true. They don't have any problem. So P implies Q. Where exactly the problem lies? When this is true but this is not true, then this start statement gets nullified. It will be falsified. It will become a fallacy. Okay. So let us see which of them are false and which of them are true. Is this true? False. If this is false, whatever it is, this will be true. So first statement is true. 5 plus 3 is 8. True. When it is true, we need to be careful. Is the second statement true or false? False. Earth is not flat. Earth is round. Who said that? Okay. This will be, this is true, this is false. So this entire statement is false. If both A and B are true, A and B, are they true? False. This is false. So irrespective of the second part, the statement will be true. So which of the statements are true? A and C are true where B is false. A simple question, absolutely no calculations, just that you need to understand P implies Q statement properly. That's it. Another very simple question, looks frightening but very simple. F of x is given by x plus 1. See, he is unnecessarily complicated. Instead of giving a simple function, direct substitution, he is unnecessarily complicating by giving a lot of things here. Okay, so let us simplify the look and feel of the question. So many times, even JEE Advanced also they do this. They try to make the question look complicated, whereas question is simple. Limit n tending to infinity. What is f of x plus 1? So I will write these ones separately. How many ones are there? Starting from 0, 5, 10, so on up to 5n minus 1. N ones are there. So n ones I will write them separately. Then what? F of x is x. So nothing to write about x. If you have simply write about x. So 5 by n, 10 by n, so on up to 5 I can take common. Then what do I have? 1 by n, 2 by n, 3 by n, so on up to n minus 1 divided by n. And whole divided by n is there, n square, and this becomes 1. A very easy question. What is the answer? 1 by 2, 5, 5 by 2 plus 1, 7 by 2. That is your answer. Absolutely no calculations required, nothing required. It's a one-liner again. Let's look at the next question. Sum of the local minimum values of twice differentiable function f of x is equal to x cube minus 3x square minus 3f double dash 2 by 2x plus f double dash 1. So here he just wants you to spend some time on this question. F double dash, instead of giving the equation directly, is just putting some numbers here, f double dash, f double dash. So second derivative will purely depend on these two numbers. Yes or no? Linear and constant terms, when you differentiate two times, they vanish. At the most, x square and x cube will contribute. So indirectly these are also given. There is nothing hidden in this question, but just that he wants you to invest some time on this question. Let us do that. So f double dash x, what is it? Directly you can differentiate this 2 times 3x square 6x, differentiate once 6x, second time 6. So you have double dash 2, what will it be? Substitute to 6. F double dash 1, what is it? 0. So what is the function which we are talking about? F of x is x cube minus 3x square. This is 6 here, 18 by 2, 9, minus 9x. So a simple cubic function is given. Which type of cubic? Coefficient of x cube is positive. He is talking about local minimum values. Local minimum values. So observe f dash x. What is it? 3x square minus 6x minus 9. Discriminant of this is positive. Minus 4ac term is positive. So this discriminant is positive. That means this will have two roots. So whenever a cubic with positive coefficients having two roots for its derivative, how will be the graph? So just from minus infinity to infinity, there will be a point of local maxima and a point of local minima. So just find the roots of f dash x is equal to 0. You will get the point you will get the point of local minima, you will get the point of local maxima. From there you will be able to find out whatever he asks in the question. So again, not at all a complicated question, a difficult looking but easy question. F of x satisfies the equation dy by dx minus det A. Det A, in morning session also there was a question on det A. Det A, how to find this? Simple. If you want to save some time, start with this row or this column. So what will be det A? Y into minus 1 by x, this is 0. So minus y by x minus y by x 0 2 into sin x plus 1 dy by dx is equal to this. So what kind of a equation is this? A simple linear equation. So linear equation, either you can go for the proper linear format, or you can simply observe if I multiply throughout by x, x dy by dx plus y is equal to 2x sin x plus 2x. A very simple. Now what is significance of this? This is nothing but derivative of x into y. This is derivative of x into y. You can see UV rule here. So integrating on both sides, xy is equal to integral of 2, I can take common, x sin x dx plus integral of 2, again I can take common. So can you expect a simpler integral? X sin x used by parts, x square by 2 plus c. Integration constant, once you add, you have the solution there. So again a very simple question here. Just that a straightforward question, it is made to look complicated, nothing much. Next question, the value of k for which the following system of linear equations has infinitely many solutions. See, three linear equations represent three planes. If these planes belong to a family, that means they have a line in common, then you will have infinitely many solutions. In that case, one plane equation, you will be able to see it as a linear combination of the other two planes. So whenever you have infinitely many solutions, one equation, you will be able to see it as a linear combination of the other two equations. Let us see if we can find any linear combination here. What are the numbers? 6, 5, 3, 1, minus 1, 2. Look at them carefully. Your intuition tells you something. 6. Multiply this by 3. 3 plus 3 is 6. When you multiply this entire equation by 3, 3 2s are 6 minus 1 is 5. So if this also satisfies that linear combination, then you have a chance of infinitely many solutions or no solution. If this doesn't satisfy, then there will be only unique solution. So for this to satisfy, k should be equal to how much? Minus 9 plus 4 minus 5. So if k is equal to minus 5, then you will have infinitely many solutions or you will have no solution. No solution, how can you rule out? If the right hand side is also satisfying the linear combination, then you will have infinitely many solutions. Otherwise, you will have no solution. So automatically he might have already verified. He has given the numbers to you. He might have already verified. Just for the sake of discussion, if you have to see, minus 6 plus 3 is minus 3. That is already verified. So k equal to minus 5 will give you infinitely many solutions, and if k is not equal to minus 5, then you will have a unique solution. So this method will be very handy to you, especially because this question is repeatedly asked in JEE Main. If these lines are coplanar, again a repeatedly asked question. Here, the lines are not in symmetric form. The lines are not in symmetric form. So convert it into symmetric form, and while doing this, try to be a little smart. Unknowns are here, AY, BZ. Okay, so this is the term which creates problem for us. This is the term which makes the calculations slightly more tedious. So how to get rid of this is simply observe, throw this 1 throughout, add 1 throughout this equation, add 1 throughout this equation. So what will this equation become? X plus 1 is equal to AY, I'll come to it, is equal to adding 1. z minus 1. Now to be in symmetric form, this a should not have been there. So what will I do? Divide throughout by a. Now you can happily see this in symmetric form. This is in symmetric form of a line equation. Second one, how to convert into symmetric form? 2 I will add throughout. X plus 2 is equal to minus 2 plus 2 gets cancelled. 3y is equal to bz. Is it in symmetric form? No. I have 3 and b here. So divide by 3b throughout. This is again in symmetric form. Now, when will two lines in symmetric form be coplanar? Just understand the concept. I have a line passing through a point, another line passing through another point. This is parallel to this vector drs. This is parallel to this vector. If these three vectors are coplanar, then the lines will be intersecting. The lines will be coplanar. So which two vectors? Which three vectors? One is first direction of the first line, A1A. Second direction of the second line, 3B, B3. And third, join of these 2 points. First one is passing through which point? Minus 1, 0, 1. Second one is passing through which 2 points? Which point? Minus 2, 0, 0. Now, what is the vector joining these two? 1, subtract 1 from the other. 1, 0, 1. So, this determinant has to be 0. That is a straightforward condition for the lines to be coplanar. As simple as that. P be a variable point on the parabola y is equal to x, 4x square plus 1. Then the locus of midpoint of the point P and foot of the perpendicular drawn from point P to the line y is equal to x. So, what kind of parabola is this? Yeah, upward parabola with vertex at 1, 0. P is a point here. This is the line y is equal to x. From this, you are dropping a perpendicular onto y equal to x. And you are focusing on midpoint of this. You want locus of midpoint of this. Okay, fine. This line is y is equal to x. There are two ways to do it. Any locus question, you can do it in two ways. One, either assume the information in terms of any one unknown and try to eliminate the unknown. So here you could have assumed the point as alpha comma alpha square plus 1 and continued the question. Alternately, you will start by assuming let the point whose locus is to be determined be h comma k. Let the point whose locus is to be determined be h comma k. So from h comma k, if you are dropping a perpendicular onto y equal to x, what will be this foot of the perpendicular? Either you can find it by foot of the perpendicular formula, or see, this is the line y equal to x. So this line will be x plus y is equal to some constant. Which constant? hk. X plus y is equal to h plus k. And for this point y equal to x. So this point will be h plus k by 2 comma h plus k by 2. Okay. So from there, what will be P? You know P and this point have midpoint as h comma k. So P will be twice of the midpoint 2h minus h plus k by 2 comma 2k minus h plus k by 2. That will be P for you. So you have P in terms of h and k. And what is speciality of the point? It satisfies this particular equation. Simply substitute the point and get the locus. Not at all a difficult question, not at all lengthy. You can happily do it in 1 or 2 lines. So what is this point? 4h minus h, 3h minus k by 2, comma, what is this point? 3k minus h by 2. So what is the locus? Y is equal to, in place of y, you will substitute this quantity 3y minus x by 2 is equal to 4 into x square, 3x minus y by 2 whole square. So 2, 4 gets cancelled, plus 1. You already have the locus, just you have to identify the option and tick it. Okay, so again a simple question, provided you have practiced the locus questions well. So locus questions, you will have two models. One, assume the point and find the entire information in terms of the point and get the locus equation, or find a, assume everything in terms of one parameter unknown and try to find everything in terms of that parameter, try to find the point in terms of that parameter and eliminate the parameter. So most likely h comma k would be better, and in some questions first method will also be a better method. So you need to have the jurisprudence of which method to choose when. This is again your NCERT textbook question. Nothing novel here, just that you have to do some calculations. So he's asking you tan of two angles. So whenever you want to find tan of two angles, sum of two angles, preferably if this was in tans, it would have been a lot more easy. So we have to find tan of something plus something. Had they been in tan inverse, it would have been simple. So sin inverse, how can I convert into tan inverse? Tan inverse of sin theta is 5 by 13, so tan theta will be 5 by 12. 5, 12, 13 are Pythagorean triangle. So this is tan inverse 5 by 12. Okay, and this tan 2 theta formula, tan inverse of 2 tan theta, 2 into 3 by 5. Tan inverse formula, inverse trigonometry and trigonometry will be more or less similar, but here you will have domain and range constraints. You have to be careful with that. So just apply 2 tan theta formula here. 2 into 3 by 5, 6 by 5 divided by 1 minus tan square theta, 1 minus 9 by 25. 1 minus 9 by 25 is how much? 16 by 25. Okay, so this is simply coming out to tan inverse 5 gets cancelled, 5 goes up, 30 by 16, 15 by 8 plus tan inverse 5 by 12. On this you have to apply tan a plus tan b. Yes, tan of a plus b, tan a plus tan b by 1 minus tan a tan b. So very simple question again. It's just that you have to use your elementary inverse trigonometric formula and trigonometric formula. Next question, in a right angle triangle, the smallest angle be theta. The smallest angle be theta. In a right angle triangle, smallest angle, let it be theta. If the triangle is formed by taking reciprocals of the sides of is also a right angle triangle, then find sin theta. So let us do this question novelly. There is only one variable mentioned here, theta, and you have to find sin theta. So let us not try to assume or overload with plenty of numbers. Without loss of generality, I can take smallest side to be 1 unit. 1 unit. Okay. Smallest side will be opposite to smallest angle. So theta is given to be the smallest angle. So smallest side 1 will be here. If this is 1, what will this be? Cosecant theta. If this is 1, what will this be? Adjacent side, cot theta. Opposite by adjacent is tan, or adjacent by opposite is cot. Now you know sides of the triangle. What is the information given? Reciprocals of its sides form a right angle triangle. In this, what is the smallest side? 1. So largest side in the reciprocals will be 1 again. So hypotenuse will be 1 for the triangle which contains reciprocals of the sides. What are the other two sides? Reciprocal of tan cot theta is tan theta. Use Pythagoras theorem. Reciprocal of cosecant theta will be sin theta. So, which is the triangle with reciprocal sides? Sides has 1 tan theta and sin theta. So, what is the equation given? Tan square theta plus sin square theta is equal to 1. Simple equation. So, from this you have to find the value of sin square theta. This gets converted into a quadratic in sin square theta. This is sin square theta. You can take common into 1 by cos square theta. You can write it as 1 minus sin square theta plus 1. Now you can see a quadratic in terms of sin square theta. Solve the quadratic and get the value of sin square theta, thereby sin theta value. So not at all a complicated question, it's a very simple question. Or you could have even simplified this basic use of your trigonometry. Tan square theta plus sin square theta is equal to 1. Throw it the other side, cos square theta. Sin square theta by cos square theta, you have sin square theta is equal to cos power 4 theta. Okay, so here 1 cos square theta, you can write it as 1 minus sin square theta whole square. So again you have the quadratic in terms of sin square theta. So not at all a complicated question, just that you need to assume things in a right way. Assume things in a right way. Don't overload with a lot of assumptions. For the natural numbers, 1 minus y power n, 1 plus y power n, this should be plus m plus n. Obviously, when you are multiplying a mth degree polynomial and a nth degree polynomial, you will get a m plus nth degree polynomial. Okay. So, what is given? A1 plus A2 is given to be 10. A1 plus A2 is given to be 10. Let us try to solve this, not making it very complicated. A1 is what? Coefficient of y. Coefficient of y. How will you get coefficient of y? He is just talking about coefficient of y and y square. So, let us focus on coefficient of y and y square here. 1 expansion is 1 minus my plus mc2y square. Remaining terms I can ignore because my focus is only on coefficient of y and y square. And what is the other term? 1 plus ny. I am simply using binomial theorem to expand. nc2y square, so on. You can ignore all the terms. So in this product, how will you get coefficient of y? Multiplying minus my with 1, minus m will be the coefficient, ny with 1, n will be the coefficient. So this is a1 for you. And what is a2? Y square coefficient. Y square coefficient, how will you get? Multiply this y square term with 1, mc2. Y square term with 1, nc2. Y terms, y and y terms, when you multiply, you will have minus a. So a1 plus a2 is given to be 10. Sum of these two is given to be 10. And he is asking you the value of m plus n. Okay. So probably the summation will get converted automatically into something in terms of m plus n. From there, you will be able to find the value of m plus n. So not at all again a complicated question. Just that you have to do some calculations, nothing else. Find the sum of first 21 terms of the series log x to the base 9 power 1 by 2, log x to the base 9 power 1 by 3, log x to the base 9 power 1 by 4, so on. Achha, powers here are increasing. Okay. So you can use a simple property. Log a to the base b is same as log a power n to the base b power n. You can raise base and part to the same power. Will not change. Log a to the base b will be same as log a power n to the base b power n. So here I have power 1 by 2. 1 by 2 is something which is not comfortable looking at it. So if you square here, that will be, you can get rid of it. So you should also square here. If you cube this will become nice. You should also cube this. So what will happen? This expression is nothing but log x squared to the base 9 plus log x cubed to the base 9 plus log x power 4 to the base 9, so on. How many terms? 21 such terms. Is it not a simple question? Bases are all same now. Adding logarithms, you can multiply the numbers inside. So this will be log to the base of 9 x square into x cube into x power 4, so on, 21 such terms. Okay, so this is a very simple question, basic logarithm questions. Greatest integer part of integral minus pi by 2 to pi by 2. Whenever you have minus pi by 2 to pi by 2, see if you have even functions. But here neither even nor odd, integral part is there. Here integral part of x is an integer, and every integer you can bring it out of the integral part happily. So if at all you have integral part of x plus n, if you know n is an integer, you can happily bring it out and write it as integral part of x plus n. So that will make this crooked looking question into an easier one. So this integral part of x is outside. Now this question is looking neat and decent. There are 2-3 ways of doing it. I'll tell you the best one. Now if at all integral part, usually our practice is we try to cut it into intervals. Okay. Had it been cutting into intervals, minus pi by 2 to minus 1, minus 1 to 0, 0 to 1, 1 to pi by 2, these many intervals you have to cut. Instead, recall a property of integral part of x. Integral part of x plus integral part of minus x will be minus 1 whenever x is not an integer. Whenever x is not an integer, integral part of x plus integral part of minus x will be 1. Here, there are integers in between, but there are only points. They will not have any contribution to the final solution. So you can ignore the case where this is not an integer. In that case, it will be 0. Integral part of minus x plus integral part of x will be 0 whenever x is an integer. And whenever x is not an integer, it will be minus 1. Though there are some numbers in between where it is becoming integer, there are only points. Points will not have any contribution to the final area. So you can ignore them. So call this integral I. Make use of the property integral a to b f of x dx is same as integral a to b f of a plus b minus x. Adding these two, you get 0, so 0 minus x. Minus x plus integral part of minus sign of minus x is sin x dx. What have I done? Just added a plus b minus x. Okay, replaced x with minus x. Integral a to b f of x dx is same as integral a to b f of a plus b minus x. Or whenever it is minus a to a, integral f of x will be same as integral f of minus x. So these two are one and the same. So to make use of this property, I just have to add both of them. When you add both of them, what will you get? Simply add both of them. 2i is equal to integral minus pi by 2 to pi by 2 integral part of x plus integral part of y minus x is minus 1. Integral part of sin x plus integral part of minus sin x is again minus 1. So this will be minus 2. 2 gets cancelled. Answer is minus pi. Very simple integral. Okay. So just recall the properties of integral part of x, integral part of x plus integral part of minus x is minus 1. That is how elegantly you can solve this question. Let's look at next one. This is again a routine question but asked differently. If R1 and R2 be the radii of smallest and largest circle passing through the point minus 4 comma 1. There is a point minus 4 comma 1. You have two circles, smallest and largest respectively, passing through this point and having centers on circumference of another circle. Which circle is that? X square plus y square plus 2x plus 4y minus 4 equal to 0. What is center of this circle? Minus 1 comma minus 2. And what is radius of this circle? 4 plus 4 8 plus 1 9 under root 3. So radius of the circle is 3 root over g square plus f square minus c. I have a point minus 1 comma minus 2. How far is it from this? 3 root 2. And what is radius of the circle? 3. So this is definitely a smaller one. This length is how much? 3 root 2. This will come out to be handy. This radius is how much? 3. Now I want a circle passing through this point and center on this somewhere, so that the circle is smallest and largest. So if the point is here, this will be the radius of the circle. This will be the radius. So when will be the radius smallest? This particular one. So this is the smallest radius. And which is the largest radius? Diametrically opposite radius. This will be the largest radius. Okay. So this distance is 3 root 2. 3 root 2 minus 3 is your smallest radius. 3 root 2 plus 3 is your largest radius. Okay. So that is how simple this question is. This is the ratio. He wants to express it in the form a plus b root 2. You can rationalize, simplify, get the answer. Consider L, this line equation. This is again a teaser. He has given you a line. He has given you a line and a point. What is this point? 2, 3, minus 1. He wants you to find image of this point with respect to this line P dash and draw a plane perpendicular to which is passing through this image Q and perpendicular to the line. So if you are drawing a plane passing through Q and perpendicular to L, will it not also pass through P? Yes or no? This is the normal. You have a plane. If image of any point in this plane with respect to this line will also lie on the plane. So if plane is passing through Q, it will also pass through P. So you need not waste your time on finding Q. So directly write the plane equation passing through 2, 3, minus 1 and perpendicular to this line. So what will be the plane equation? These are the normal. 2, 1, 1 are drs of the normal. 2 into x minus 2 plus 1 into x minus 3 plus minus 1 into 1 into x plus y minus 3 z plus 1 is equal to 0. This will be the plane equation. 2 into x minus 2 plus 1 into y minus 3 plus 1 into z plus 1 equal to 0. This is the plane equation. Now substitute the points and see which all satisfied, which all not. Very simple question. So instead of wasting time on finding Q, you can directly think of the plane in a proper way. G of t is equal to integral minus pi by 2 to pi by 2 cos of pi by 4 t plus f of x, where f of x is, see, look at this function. Always the paper setter wants to communicate something to you. Log of x plus root over x square plus 1, whenever he says log of x plus x root over x square plus 1, he wants you to see that this is an odd function. All he wants to say that f of x is a odd function. All that he wants to say is f of x is a odd function. And look at the limits also, integral minus a to a minus pi by 2 to pi by 2. So he wants you to make use of that odd function concept. So without even substituting this function, I'll just try to do this question. G of t is equal to integral minus pi by 2 to pi by 2 cos of pi by 4 t plus f of x. So just like the previous question, you can replace x by a plus b minus x, that is minus x. F of minus x, what will it be? Minus of f of x. So g of t will again be same as integral minus pi by 2 to pi by 2 cos of pi by 4 t. See how beautifully this question is framed. Minus f of x, because f of x is an odd function. Replace x with minus x, minus will come out because f is an odd function. Now what you can see, cos of a plus b, cos of a minus b, just add like we did it in the previous question. 2g of t is equal to integral minus pi by 2 to pi by 2 cos a plus b plus cos a minus b. What will it be? 2 times 2 gets cancelled, cos a cos b, which is cos of pi by 4t into cos of f of x. Now this integral has got nothing to do with t. So this is a constant. You can bring it out of the integral. You can bring it out of the integral. So what is your g of x? G of t is cos pi by 4t into integral minus pi by 2 to pi by 2 cos of f of x, where f of x this is. This will be some number. If needed, we will use it, otherwise not. Let's say this is some number a. Now what is he asking? What is the ratio of g of 1 and g of 0? G of 1, if you substitute, is cos pi by 4. G of 0 is 1. When you divide one by the other, a gets cancelled. So g of 1 divided by g of 0 is 1 by root 2. As simple as that. You need not even evaluate any further integration. So just that you have to identify that this function is an odd function and make use of the basic properties of definite integral clubbed with transformations. Beautifully framed question and a simple question. So just by looking at the question, you should not be worried. You should simply focus on doing it the right way. If the real part of the complex number 1 minus cos theta by 1 minus cos theta plus 2i sin theta whole power minus 1 is 1 by 5. Now, how will you write this complex number? 1 by 1 minus cos theta plus 2i sin theta. Now, if you have to convert this into a normal proper form, multiply by the conjugate. So, this will become mod z square in the denominator. Numerator will have 1 minus cos theta minus 2i sin theta multiplied by the conjugate. This is how you can write this complex number as. What is its real part? This part is its real part. Is given to be how much? 1 by 5. Now see the beautiful way of solving things, how things which look lengthy become simplified. 1 minus cos theta by 1 minus cos theta whole square plus 4 sin square theta, you want it to be 1 by 5. Just focus on this and ask yourself a question, when will this become 1 by 5? When will this become 1 by 5? Don't rush to solve, just look at it and ask for which value of theta this becomes a 1 by 5. Can you see that? Yes, when cos theta is 0 and sin theta is 1. Cos theta is 0 and sin theta is 1. So theta which we are talking about is pi by 2. And what is the question is asking? Integral 0 to pi by 2 sin x dx. We cannot get a simpler question. Yes or no? So don't rush to solve. Presence of mind during the examination is very important. That is what this mathematics paper, today's mathematics paper, communicated to you. Be present. While practicing also, try to be elegant in your solving approach. Try to find the best and simplest possible solving methods that will help you even during your examination. That is the lesson for the session. Thank you, one and all.